welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. Today, it's game day. It's semifinals game day. We've got Penn State, Notre Dame on Thursday night. So, of course, we're going to be talking about some playoff football, NFL draft implications for each of these sides. A little Dafter draft mixed in with some semis since we only got two games. And we'll talk about Ohio State, Texas, obviously on Friday night as well. Before we get set up with our national championship it's going to be a weird one. This national championship is going to be looked weird because they're going to change the playoff format and they kind of put some of the better teams in some bad situations to start. But we'll have a national championship nonetheless. But again, Dalton Miller, how are you? Are you ready to talk about some playoff football?
I am ready to talk about some playoff football. Pennsylvania is at war right now. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Notre Dame fandom is also huge in the state of Pennsylvania, weirdly enough. And Penn State is obviously the state school there. So this is a big game for the state of Pennsylvania. I just have one question before we get started. Do you think that Notre Dame should be a 1.5 point favorite in this game?
That sounds right to me.
It sounds right to me when we also look at the total being 44.5.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you look at what Allar's done against actual body of work and strong competition, it makes sense to me going up against, again, a secondary that we continue to rave about that's just going to beat down a talentless wide receiver room. And so I struggle outside of just spamming Tyler Warren and Nick Singleton, which I guess they've done all season, how they're going to be able to score points.
And how does Xavier Watts take away from Tyler Warren?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a very good chance we've talked about it a lot with Drew Allar, ripping seam passes. You got a ball hawk in the middle of the field there, man.
He's going to bait the heck out of Allar too.
Mm-hmm.
Bait the heck out of him.
That's my bold prediction. My bold prediction is if he gets an interception, Notre Dame wins. If he doesn't, Notre Dame loses.
Interesting. I will say, though, Notre Dame's linebackers are like more stout, bulky guys. So Nick Singleton might be able to catch some bodies at space in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a difference maker too. Again, I like Notre Dame's front five, front four, front seven, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Especially coming downhill. Like Jack Kaiser, I don't think is much of an NFL player, but he's fun when you just tell him to ram the A gap. So
yes.
And Notre Dame or Penn State's offensive line is a good unit. I don't think there's a single standout on that unit though. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch. But those corners at Notre Dame are playing some really stinking good football without
Ben. And they have all year, man. And when I went back and I watched Singleton to finish up his evaluation, because we're going to be talking about our 21 through 25 soon.
Not to spoil anything.
And he is in the running for that. And so I went through and I rewatched him. Man, he's such a good route runner. Mm-hmm. They run him on choice routes, man, and he obviously gets to choose what he's doing based off of a linebacker's leverage, and it's just game over because he's able to carry so much speed in and out of breaks, and then he's got great hands to top it all off. So a really dangerous weapon in that passing attack, that does not have much at wide receiver right now.
Yeah, we've said it all season. It's Tyler Warren and it's Nick Singleton. So. Mm-hmm. Do they have one more game in them? Two more games, I guess, but one more game in them to really go all out. I'm trying to think of any other matchups in this game.
This is the big one for James Franklin. The first two don't really count. SMU doesn't count, and neither does Boise. As fun as Boise was, and they only lost by 3 to Oregon.
Physicals there,
They don't have the horses that Penn State does. So. This is the real test. Also, the storyline is no matter what, the first African-American coach is going to be coaching in the national championship. My buddy from Pennsylvania, who I went to school with, had no idea that James Franklin was half black. Had no idea. Thought he was a white guy. Just thought he was a really tan white guy. And I said, that actually is an incredible headline. First tan head coach to ever coach in the college football playoff championship.
Oh,
man. But no, listen, James Franklin is somebody who I much maligned forever for not being able to win big games. And Marcus Freeman is somebody who I don't think I could speak more highly of than Marcus Freeman. He might be my favorite coach in college football or the NFL. Dan Campbell, he doesn't even count at this point. So I do believe that defense is going to cause issues for Penn State. My question is can Riley Leonard do enough in the passing game? Because I don't see how Notre Dame scores more than 21 points in this game.
Yeah. So I like Zane Durant as a prospect, defensive tackle for Penn State. Stacked out defense.
Yeah.
But how much do we trust Penn State's interior defensive line and Penn State's linebackers if they just? But again, Jeremiah Love hasn't been healthy in the playoffs either. But how much do we trust that interior part of that defensive line to if Notre Dame just decides we're going to run read option, we're going to play bozo ball with Riley Leonard like they did last week against Georgia? How much?
I mean, I trust the second level. I just don't think that they can come in with the same game plan because Penn State can score points.
Yeah.
Even though their passing attack is lackluster.
Well, so is Notre Dame's.
Yeah, Notre Dame's is too, but they can score points. We saw them score points with Oregon. We've seen them score points and really I always screw up his name. The offensive coordinator for Penn State,
Koltanecki, I think I probably butchered it as well. But
yeah, a really fantastic offensive coordinator, throws a lot at a defense and makes sure that you are well coached. And they have schemed up some really good shots downfield for Drew Allar. And I think that there's going to be the ability to get Nick Singleton, because of what we talked about, up the seam for a big play or two against those linebackers in coverage. And so I do kind of think that this is a game where Notre Dame's offense and Riley Leonard specifically is going to have to score more points than they had to against, because they just play ball control, don't turn it over against Georgia. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that against Penn State.
No, that Georgia offense is also anemic. I
think it's worse. I think it's worse than Penn State's offense.
So going back through their previous games, I mean, they scored 27 against Indiana. It's USC, but they put up 49 against Army, 35 against Virginia, 52 against Florida State. I mean, we're not talking about a Penn State caliber defense, but they didn't score less than 30 from the end of September on.
Yeah, I just don't trust Riley Leonard in that passing attack.
Yeah. I don't either.
Especially because I think Penn State has two really good safeties.
Yeah, they do. It's going to be a low scoring game. It's going to be 24-21.
I mean, that's what I think, but I think it has to be for Notre Dame to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at Penn State real fast. I know they were able to score against Oregon, but everybody's been able to score against Oregon down the stretch here.
Yeah, actually.
And Penn State, any semblance of a defense like Minnesota, they only put up 26. They put up 37 against Oregon. But the thing is, again, about playing Oregon, though, is Oregon scores so freaking fast that Penn State had the ball a lot.
Well, and that's the other thing. Game flow matters.
Yeah,
a lot.
SMU, they scored 38, but they had 2 defensive touchdowns very early in that game, and almost a third that put them in really good field position. Against Ohio State, 13 points, man.
Well,
against Illinois, 21 points.
That Ohio State defense is really freaking good, and actually, that
so Illinois Dame's though.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Any team that's actually mattered, 44 in Maryland, great. 49 on Purdue, 35 on a terrible version of Washington a year after they played in the national championship. But any game that mattered, they couldn't put up points. They won defensive games. or they lost close games where their defense held Ohio State to 20 points.
Yeah.
If you would have told me in that weekend, if Penn State holds Ohio State to 20 points, they win. I would have told you they win the game.
Yeah. That was an ugly offensive game.
It was very ugly.
Teams.
So, I think if we're gonna go prediction time here, man, I think I'm gonna lean Notre Dame here because I don't think I trust Penn State to score points against able-bodied defenses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still leaning Notre Dame mostly because I just love that defense so much.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the question. If Drew Allar goes out and has a big day against Notre Dame, he should declare, and should he declare, he would be the first quarterback drafted in the 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, so that's a good draft. I have been the biggest advocate that I don't think Drew Allar is there from a mental aspect. I think he's slow to get his eyes backside. Some really weird accuracy stuff down the stretch here too. Like
uncharacteristic. See, that's more
the rest of the season.
That's more where I'm at. More. I think that he needs to fix his lower half a little bit, and every college guy does really.
Yeah.
I see less of the mental issues, but it's mostly I think because he just gets to Singleton or Allen so quick because he knows those guys aren't getting the fuck open out there.
No.
So it's a lot of forcing tight windows to Tyler Warren and throwing to Nick Singleton.
So I'm gonna split this in half. I'm gonna daft that he should declare because I still think going back to school and playing is greater than going to the NFL and sitting for a year.
I agree.
And I think any team picking at the top, even Tennessee, I think Brian Callahan would be smart enough to know. A guy who's coached a lot of good quarterbacks in his life would be smart enough to know, like, let's go sign Derek Carr for a year. Let's go sign Aaron Rodgers for a year. Something like that. I think the Browns are the same way. I honestly don't think the Browns are drafting a quarterback. I think they're selling the pick. The Jets would be an awful situation for him to start right away. The Raiders would be a terrible situation. But the Raiders, they're gonna start the guy because their quarterback situation is that bad that they're gonna start right away. So I don't think he should. I'm drafting the part where I say he should declare, but I'm drafting the part where he would be the first quarterback off the board.
I think so too, because
in a heartbeat he would be the first quarterback off the board.
The more you hear, the more it's like the NFL might not love either of these guys. And I think it's fair. I mean, we haven't talked about them on our big board yet.
Nope. And we're 20 players in.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think I would draft that. But part of me, like, if Drew Allar submitted his paperwork to the advisory board and they said, yeah, you'll go first round, he would have declared. I think maybe he would have declared the rip, you know? Or maybe his allegiance is that strong to James Franklin that he's like, I'm going to see this through.
Maybe he didn't talk to the advisory board. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just thought, I'm going back. Yeah. I didn't have a great year. Meh. Mm-hmm. Still got time.
Yeah, Perbola transferring out already makes it feel pretty firm too.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen if he declares his Perbola and then go back in the portal and come back to Penn State? Like, I guess it could happen in the spring window, but
probably not because he's already at
he's at an SEC Power 4 school where he's going to start. So, like, probably not. So I'm going to split that. I'm going to draft that he should, but I'm going to draft that he would be the first quarterback off the board.
Love it. All right, love it. So we both have Notre Dame winning.
I think
in a close game, and we can move on to Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah. Quite frankly, I think this is going to be a 2-score game.
5.5 point spread doesn't feel like enough.
No.
Especially with Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks both banged up.
And they couldn't score points against Arizona State's defense. Ohio State's got way better stallions.
Yeah, my biggest issue is when we saw it in both Georgia games. Get down in a negative game script, and you have to throw the ball, and that offense is kaput. It's over. They can't do it. They can't drop back and pass the ball.
No,
they can run. They have the horses up front, and that's the one thing.
I love watching Weisner, man. Weisner's a freaking blast.
Well, not just Weisner, but that entire offensive line. And I don't know what's going to happen because Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks are banged up, so I don't know how great it will look on the ground. But those dudes can run on anybody, and that's what I'm most excited about in this game is that front seven for Ohio State against that offensive line for Texas, because I think that is two of the elite units in college football.
Yeah, and we came in pretty low on how Ohio State's interior or defensive line as a whole was playing, like compared to the expectation coming into the season for Tyleik Williams, for Jack Sawyer, for JTT. Those guys are all playing very good football right now.
Yeah,
I would say Tyleik is playing about the same level of football because he's been a stout run defender all year.
Yeah.
And he's still that, and he's still the same as he was as a pass rusher. But we're seeing Jack Sawyer flip the switch after that Michigan game. He flipped the switch. JTT is playing good football as well. Again, I love Sonny Styles. He'll run anybody down sideline to sideline. And Cody Simon too. I think we got to talk a little about Cody Simon. He's diagnosing and triggering downhill very well right now. I felt like he had his footprint, his fingerprints all over that game against Oregon, all over it. So, yeah, if they can contain Blue and Weisner, if JTT and Jack Sawyer can take advantage of a beat up Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks, and they can force them into second longs, third and mediums, I think Ohio State runs away with this game.
Yeah, I do too.
Jadae Barron is a good matchup for Emeka Egbuka. I'll give him that. I think that's probably where he's going to stick. Who's covering Jeremiah Smith in this football game?
Well, nobody can. I mean,
nobody in the nation can. Right? He's the best wide receiver in college football at the age of 19.
But Barron is playing on the outside. So
I agree. But don't you think they'd kind of want to match a little bit based on?
I don't think they will. Dude, they play so much cover three. They play so much cover three in that defense. I think they're going to keep him on the outside. He can do it. He's literally played that position in the past. But do they? I think they put. I
guess Makuba's kind of a wild card too because he can play boundary to boundary. He can
he can move around and play in the slot a little bit. That's actually one that I'm interested in. Makuba against
Egbuka
a little bit.
Makuba against Henderson coming out of the backfield too. It's going to be a little fun. Because TreVeyon Henderson is playing the best football of his career. We've talked about TreVeyon Henderson, how his freshman year he looked like one of the best backs in college football. Suffered a hairline fracture his sophomore year. Didn't quite get that. He played well last year, but didn't quite get that juice all the way back. And he looks all the way back right now. Playing some of the best football of his college football career. And I think I'm not the biggest Quinshon Judkins fan. You're not the biggest Quinshon Judkins fan, but TreVeyon Henderson, when he gets to the second level, when he's coming out of the backfield as a receiver, you can manufacture touches for that guy, and he has legitimate game-breaking explosiveness right now, which has been kind of missing from his tape while he was kind of dealing with that hairline fracture. So that's going to be an issue too for Texas for sure.
Alfred Collins.
I was just about to say, is Ohio State's duct-taped interior offensive line going to continue to play well? What happened, man? What happened with those guys?
They got some experience.
Yeah.
They got some experience, and they're 4 stars. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So
who do you think? This is a fun question. Not our draft here, but a fun question because we've talked a lot of shit about Quinn Ewers on this podcast.
Sure.
Who do you think is the better quarterback in this football game? Will Howard or Quinn Ewers?
Don't make me choose. Will Howard.
Right now, it's Will Howard.
I will say, Ewers played very well last week.
He did.
But blind squirrel every once in a while.
Will Howard plays really well the past 2 weeks too, dropping some unbelievable basket throws that I don't know if he's ever done in his college football career.
And he can run a little bit, but
he's really toesy. But
yeah, I have a question for you, and it's not a daft or draft. Okay. We'll get to that. But we've talked about 4 schools, and we've talked about Wisner and Blue and Judkins and Henderson and Allen and Singleton and Love
and
Price. Like, who's got the best duo?
Ooh.
Out of the quad, who has the best duo?
Are we taking health into consideration?
We are taking health into consideration.
See, I would say Notre Dame if Jeremiah Love was 100%, but that dude,
because I really like
playing
Price
snaps
too.
at all.
Like, I really like Price too.
I do too. I want to look at Love's snap count last week real fast. NCAA Jeremiah. All right, so Jeremiah Love played 17 snaps against Georgia, man. 22 snaps against Notre Dame or Indiana. If we're taking health into consideration, I'm going Ohio State. I like Wisner and Blue. I don't think Wisner's overly explosive. He's really freaking physical. Yeah. Really freaking physical. And Jaden Blue is the more explosive one. Jaden Blue also fumbles the football a ton. Yeah. But he's good out of the backfield too. I think Henderson and Judkins complement themselves so well. Like, you need 3 yards. Just like Judkins. Judkins has no patience. He's just gonna run over his own offensive guard to get the yards he wants, gets the yards he needs. So like, but then Henderson will do the explosive stuff, and Jenkins that explosiveness is what he does best, I think, when he gets in the linear plane. But he's stiff, and again has no patience. But I'm gonna go with those Ohio State backs. I think that's the best duo in college football left.
Man. Katron Allen has really impressed me in the back half of the season. Is he explosive literally at all?
No. He's LeGarrette Blount 2.0. Yeah,
he's not. But he is very difficult to tackle. And like you were talking about the complementary football between Judkins and Henderson, that is a perfect complement to Nick Singleton and what he's able to do. I hate that Allen is on that team because it almost allows them to just screw off with Singleton and like put him in motion and give him jet sweeps and like make him kind of a mix between a running back and a gadget player.
Yeah.
And a wide receiver. Like, they don't give him they give him regular touches, but they don't give him a ton of regular touches, not compared to Allen. And so that is a bit annoying because I would like to see more of that from Singleton. But they complement each other really, really well. At the end of the day, if we're talking about NFL draft purposes, it's Ohio State. But college football, I might take Penn State's duo.
See, for draft purposes, I would have taken Notre Dame's still.
For draft purposes, it's Notre Dame's, no doubt.
Yeah. But college football right now, health considered.
Yeah, because I like Price, and I don't know where Price would go. But
in the biggest game of Notre Dame's season, like that tells you he is far.
He's banged up.
Far from right.
Yeah. And then you add in the rushing ability of Riley Leonard, and that's, I think, the most dangerous run game in general. But the Dafter draft here for this game. And first of all, we both think Ohio State's going to win, so we don't even really need to talk about that. But
they should win by 2 scores.
And these are two, and that's the funny thing. Like, these are 2 really good football teams. Blue bloods everywhere. But it's Ohio State's roster is just that much more. And 2 banged up tackles with Quinn Ewers just doesn't. It's not a recipe for success.
No.
The Dafter draft, though, Corey, is that when and if Ohio State dominates Texas in this game, it will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Big Ten is the conference to beat in college football.
In 2024 or moving forward?
Now and moving forward. Just the next couple. You can't guarantee anything outside of 2 or 3 years.
I mean, the portal changes everything, right? The portal changes everything. Alabama should have run the table this year with the guys they had coming back, and they lost 3 games. Georgia fielded the worst offensive roster I've ever seen Georgia field.
And I think the portal is what's doing this.
And they just lost Damian Wilson. Did you see that? They just lost Damian Wilson to Ohio State. Yeah. Their sophomore phenom edge rusher.
Yeah.
So this plays I'm going to draft it mainly because I think geography plays a huge, huge role here. And Oregon's got so much NIL money. I mean, Phil Knight can field that team without scratching his bank account.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 2 Southern California teams. Like, people are, no matter how shitty
and they're bad
USC
right
or
now.
UCLA are going to be, like, people are going to want to go to Southern Cal. Yeah. Like, Ohio State's a blue blood. Michigan's a blue blood. They're always going to be able to recruit and pull from the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Georgia, Alabama, maybe Tennessee. Like, do we consider Tennessee a college football blue blood right now?
No.
What geographically are kids going to the SEC for? Like, who's going to Starksville? Who's going to Ole Miss?
I mean, transfers.
Yeah. I mean, Ole Miss can transfer in an offensive lineman to save their lives, but
everybody else though.
Like, the portal changes it to where I'm going to draft that and say, USC is always going to be able to recruit because people want to live in Southern California. UCLA is going to get there. I don't think they have the right coach right now, and they probably need a lot of overhaul. And as colleges are taking a more front office-y approach with like player personnel and stuff like that, they probably need an overhaul in that regard as well. But like, there's no reason UCLA should not be able to attract talent.
Yes, I agree.
Oregon's always going to get people because they're going to want to wear cool uniforms, and Phil Knight can throw around as much money as he wants to. Everybody's going to want to go to Ohio State. People are going to go to Michigan. Like, I don't know what other school. Maybe Florida can get back there in the SEC. DJ Lagway has a potential to pull Florida back into that blue bloody territory. But like, outside of Alabama, Georgia.
And the problem with Florida, again, is sort of geography, because then you're also competing with Miami and you're competing with Florida State as well. So like, there's a ton of talent in Florida, obviously. Yeah. But like Penn State's the only Pennsylvania school. Pitt's not in that conversation.
No.
Oregon is the only school in Oregon. And Oregon's not a powerhouse, but California is. And California is right there. California has a couple of schools, but where are all the quarterbacks from?
Yeah. And look at what even like Indiana's done in the portal the past 2 years, man.
Yeah.
Indiana convinced the Mendoza kid from Cal to come to Bloomington, Indiana over Miami and over Georgia.
And I think part of this is, where are you going to play? And kids are realizing, I'm not getting on the field at Alabama for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So why would I wait there for 3 years? And so even the SEC schools, that's where Ole Miss is getting their transfers from. And so you have the SEC schools cannibalizing the Southeastern kids and just making more parity in that conference, but nobody is rising to the top.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like Texas and Alabama swapped rosters, like a chunk of the at some point, I think Bama will get back there, but like Bama fielded 20% UW kids this year, who just came with DeBoer. So I think Bama will get back. Georgia's obviously not going, but even Georgia, what the heck happened that they are starting Xavier Truss at right tackle? What the heck happened that they're starting these wide receivers who can't catch the freaking football? What happened?
I don't know. Weird year, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to draft that for now.
Same.
I think this is going to change. This is going to be a yearly landscape shift, I think. The pendulum's going to swing, but geographically, I can't deny Southern California or Oregon. The swag factor of Oregon, you can't deny that.
Well, and that's
why everybody's going to freaking Oregon. It feels like Oregon's getting 15 kids out of the portal every year.
That's the big thing.
All top kids out of the portal. Yeah.
That's the big thing with the restructure in the Big Ten compared to the SEC, is the Big Ten now is completely spread out, and the SEC is still very much the Southeast and Texas.
Mm-hmm. So Oklahoma, Texas, yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's all we got. So we got Notre Dame over Penn State in a close game, and we got Ohio State over Texas in a larger
not so close game.
So awesome, man. That's some good playoff discourse, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
You got anything for the people?
I do not. I'm making pancakes tomorrow. That's it.
I start my cut on Saturday, so I bought some Kodiak pancake mix as well to start meal prepping some pancake portions.
Nice,
for my lunches.
Nice.
So yeah, I also am going to be doing that probably tomorrow. But hey, that's it for this episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. We mixed a little playoff discourse with some Dafter draft action there. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, we will be back later in the week. We got one more episode this week. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got one more episode this week. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. See ya.